Hi. So in honor of Black History Month, I thought I would make this video sponsored by a Black bisexual author. Island Candy Prequel. I will tell you how you can get that book for free at the end of the video. Until then, as I said, it is Black History Month here in the United States, and I thought that I should do a video talking about the top 8 historic Black bisexuals of all time. And here we go. Number 8, we have a woman by the name of Ma Rainey, who is thought of and called the mother of the blues. Why is that? Well, it's because she was one of the first artists to ever include blues music into her music set. Also, she was one of the first Black female artists to ever be recorded onto a record. And her life has been immortalized in a very famous play that won a Tony Award called Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which I actually performed in back in the day. Anyway, so how do we know that she was bisexual? Because if she was born in the 1880s, which she was, and she died in 1935, how do we know? Because we know that she was married to at least one man, and we also know that she was involved in an affair, a long-term affair, with a female chorus singer, making Ma Rainey our number 8 historic Black bisexual character. Number 7, Josephine Baker. If you don't know who she is, there was a recent television show that referred to Josephine Baker as the Beyonce of 1920s France. And although she performed in France, she is an American. Back in the 1920s, when Black people who had talent understood that they weren't necessarily going to reach the potential in the United States, so many of them went abroad. Josephine Baker was one of those people, and she became a megastar in France. But not only that, she also became a spy for the Allies during the war. So imagine that. Imagine if Beyonce, it turns out, was also a spy in her spare time. Would that blow your mind or what? But this was Josephine Baker. But how do we know that Josephine Baker was bisexual? Well, because in the biography written by her son, well, first mentions that she was married to 2 men, but also mentions for historical record that Josephine Baker was also in an affair with a female Latina painter, a famous one, by the name of Frida. So there you have it, Josephine Baker, number 7 on our list of most historic bisexual Black characters of all time. Before I go on to number 6, I would like to mention an honorable mention, because Josephine Baker, her story is about to be made into a movie, and the talk right now is that there's an actress who's going to play her, and that actress's name is Rihanna. And you might ask, well, why am I including Rihanna on this list? A couple reasons. Because she very famously was in a relationship with Chris Brown, the singer, and also she's never really been shy about expressing her affection towards women, like in the middle of a paparazzi storm, and also when she thinks that, no one is looking, with women who are topless. But on top of that, in 2012, she tweeted out something which is kind of telling, which I will quote here. "Guarantee to turn a square into a bi bitch." 3 exclamation points. So for that reason, I'm going to give her an honorable pass as being a bisexual. But why is she historic? Because believe it or not, Rihanna is the 2nd best-selling female artist of all time. You believe that? Rihanna. But not only that, she is the number 1 downloaded female artist of all time. Rihanna. So although I can't add her to the list of, the top bisexuals ever, because she has not come out as bisexual, she gets an honorable mention. Now, number 6. If you ever watched the show So You Think You Can Dance, then you are familiar with modern dance. That wasn't always very popular But the person who popularized that was a man by the name of Alex Ailey. Alex Ailey was a choreographer, and he had a theater in New York called the Alex Ailey American Dance Theater. And this, through all of his very cutting edge choreography, it brought modern dance into the popular limelight. And also, he reshaped the way that the dance community looked at African Americans. Also, he was openly bisexual, making him our number 6 on the list. Number 5, civil rights leader Malcolm X. Malcolm X is one of the 2 most famous civil rights leaders of the United States. There's Martin Luther King Jr., no matter where you are in the world, I'm sure you've heard of him. And then there was Malcolm X. They were like the yin and the yang. Like Martin Luther King Jr. was all about peace, whereas Malcolm X was a little bit more militant in his views. Malcolm X was also was referred to as a black Muslim, which is different from just being a Muslim because of, I'm not going to know the details, but he was. He was also very devout. So if he's a devout Muslim, then how do we know that he was bisexual? It's because before he was Malcolm X, he was Malcolm Little. And Malcolm Little was what was known at the time as a hustler, and what is known today as a male escort for other men. And he wasn't even shy about it. In fact, he would often brag about it. He would even sneak out of his home in the middle of the night to climb into the bed of, well, other men. So that's how we know that he was into men. And also, since he became Malcolm X, he found a wife and got married and had a family with her, making Malcolm X one of our most historic black bisexual males of all time. Next on our list, we move to literature. Alice Walker is the author of a book called The Color Purple. It went on to win a Pulitzer Prize, and it was turned into a movie directed by Steven Spielberg, and that movie brought us the famous Whoopi Goldberg and Oprah Winfrey. Number 3, Sheryl Swoopes, an athlete. Sheryl Swoopes, if you don't know her, is considered by some to be the best female basketball player of all time. Sheryl Swoopes was also the first person ever signed into the WNBA. Not only that, she went on to win 4 WNBA titles, 3 MVP awards, and 3 gold medals at the Olympics. And how do we know she's bisexual? Because actually, she did come out as gay. Well, we know she's bisexual because initially she was married to a man, which means nothing. After being married to a man, she then got famously into a relationship with an assistant coach on her basketball team. They had a long relationship together. They raised a child together, and there was that point when she came out as gay. But after that relationship ended, Sheryl Swoopes got married again. And what do you know? She got married to another man. Not just any man, but a bisexual man. So looking back on it, judging from her behavior and her relationship choices, it would seem that Sheryl Swoopes is very safely bisexual. Now we have the last 2. And for these last 2, I'm proud to say that these are 2 figures that do not commonly come up in most lists of bisexuals, much less black bisexuals. So here they are. Number 2. Before there was a Venus and Serena Williams, there was a woman by the name of Althea Gibson. Althea Gibson was the first black person to ever play at the U.S. Nationals, which became the U.S. Open, a very famous tennis tournament. She was the first black person to ever play at the French Open, first black person to ever play at Wimbledon. She was the first black person to ever win a Grand Slam tournament, which was the French Open in 1956. She was the first black person to ever win Wimbledon in 1957, and the U.S. Nationals in 1957. In 1958, she again won Wimbledon and the U.S. Nationals, and in both years, she was named as Female Athlete of the Year by the Associated Press. On top of that, she was the first black woman to ever be on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and the first black woman to ever be on the cover of Time. And on top of that, she was the first black member of the Ladies Professional Golf Association, the LPGA. So she's pretty historic. She's considered by many to be the Jackie Robinson of female sports. But how do we know she's bisexual? Because never in her life did she ever say that publicly. She didn't say very much public. She was actually quite a quite internal person. So again, how do we know? Well, I'm basing this off of a documentary. A documentary produced by PBS called American Masters, Althea. In it, many people talk about her life, and it's an extremely interesting documentary, and I suggest you check it out. And it was executive produced by a woman by the name of Billie Jean King, who is another huge sporting icon, tennis icon, who has also been in a relationship with men and women. So the source is the PBS documentary, and the executive producer, the overlooker, is a friend of Althea Gibson's, Billie Jean King. What do they say in this documentary? Well, what they say for sure, and they actually say this, is Althea Gibson loved having sex with men. That is a quote from the documentary. But what they also say is Althea Gibson was not lesbian. Then you might ask, well, aren't they just saying that Althea Gibson wasn't lesbian, so that means she's straight? Not really, because at the end of the documentary, in a very kind of awkward way, the narrator of most of the documentary is a tennis historian and a friend of Althea Gibson's. And suddenly near the end, they suddenly switch to her talking about her sexual orientation. And in that section, her friend and tennis historian says this: I don't want to be the one to say, but how and whatever her sexual preferences were, that's real. And I never heard anybody mention it. I don't know how you can talk about Althea Gibson and not talk about the whole person. Without putting her down, I have no judgment on her. Why lie about who she was? Now, you could look at that and just say, well, what is he saying? He's saying nothing much. But if a documentary, and remember, it's not just parts and pieces. When they decide on a documentary, they decide on the totality of it. So they'll watch it and make sure it all flows and it all has a continuing narrative. So at one point they're saying that she loved men. Another point they're saying that she was not lesbian. And then they have this as a centerpiece, saying that there is something that people aren't mentioning about her sexual preference, and that that he thinks that she should be respected for the whole person that she was. So I would like this video to be one of the first opportunities we have to recognize Althea Gibson for the whole person that she is, or was. She passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. But I'm putting Althea Gibson at number 2 in our list of historic Black bisexual people. And now number 1. For number 1, I'm going to start out by showing you a picture of this. This is a piece of art. How much do you think that this piece of art is worth? And I'll give you a hint, it's more than $1 million. You guessed it, $57 million. I'm not joking. That painting went on auction for $57 million. Now, why is that the case? It's because it was painted by a person by the name of Jean-Michel Basquiat. Jean-Michel Basquiat is one of the, well, certainly one of the most famous American painters of all time, but he is certainly the most famous Black painter of all time. He was born in 1960, and he was ushered into the art scene through his friendship with Andy Warhol. He died at age 27, so he didn't have a very long time to make his mark, but the last 10 paintings of his that were sold for over $350 million. This man is freaking historic. But how do we know he's bisexual? It's from a biography. A family friend, or more specifically, his most long-term lover, well, her best friend, wrote a biography about him, in which case she mentions multiple times how much Jean-Michel loved sexually women, men of all shapes and sizes, and he even went on to tell a story about his dealings with men. So there you have it. Jean-Michel Basquiat, the, in my opinion, #1 historic bisexual black figure of all time. And you know what? The truth is that there are probably a few people who I could have mentioned that are on this list that actually are bisexual, but they haven't come out. So I can't say anything until they actually come out. But this is just like a taste of the tip of the iceberg of the number of bisexuals that are out there, no matter what your racial background or age or gender. It's kind of amazing. And this is something that I think we all can celebrate, no matter your race, because these are bisexuals, and these people have changed the world in some cases. Literally changed the world. So that's it. But if you would like to support another black bisexual, then you can check out my book, Island Candy Prequel. It's an MMF bisexual romance. You can get it for free by following the link in the description below. And I have written over 100 books. So if you check the link below, there should be one where you can see them in their totality. I've written romance, I've written sci-fi, I've written actually spiritual books, and I've written kids books. So if you like, you can go and check those out. Or you can check out my t-shirts and Teespring on Amazon. The link is in below. Or you can give this video a thumbs up. I don't do bisexual videos on a regular basis, but I do them frequently. So if you want to know when a new video comes out, you have to click on the subscribe button and then on that little bell, and that will let you know when a new video comes out. Until next video, stay cooler, my bisexual friend. Stay cooler. And please, check out Island Candy Prequel. It's free. Bye.